It is Taco Tuesday.
It is Taco Tuesday. We talk about whatever we want to. We weren't here yesterday. Uh,
Sorry about that. Live
Moving
shows are
on.
tough.
So today we're
Yep.
going to be talking about the coronavirus.
How dare you?
Well, it looks like
The Kung
so
Flu.
the Kung flu. There's a little bit of news on the Kung flu. As of about an hour ago, the BBC is reporting that there are 4,500 dead. No, I'm sorry, 4,500 confirmed infected, 100 dead. Um, Obviously that's significant, but one of the things that's going down now with regard to all that is China's shutting down their mass transit. They're shutting down the trains. They're shutting down the ferries. They're shutting down.
Yet they didn't have their New Year's celebration, which is like the holiday in China. It's their July the 4th. And
Yeah.
they just kind of didn't have it.
So, why, Cameron? Why is it that this disease is so bad in China? Now, before you answer that question, I want y'all to remember, um, we had the SARS outbreak in China a few years ago. Remember that? And it blew out, went far and wide. It was a real problem. Similarly, there had to be travel restrictions, quarantines, all that kind of stuff. Uh, what was it? The Zika virus came at us from Africa, right? With the mosquitoes. Um, and the West Nile virus came out of parts of Africa. What do these places have in common? Well, they have something very very important in common, and they share this commonality with the locality that is currently having resurgences of leprosy and bubonic plague as a result of similar conditions. Those conditions, of course, are socialism,
Yes,
broad,
leftism.
sweeping, centralized, leftist, government controlled medicine, coupled with disastrous economic policy causing homelessness, causing just abject poverty. And then you end up with San Francisco, people sleeping in tents, pooping in the street. They just shit wherever they want to, shooting heroin in between their toes in front of small businesses. Business owners are closing their doors because the bums are pooping in their streets. And all of a sudden, we're seeing reports. Well, all of a sudden, we've been seeing reports since about midsummer, um, of resurgences in these tent cities in California. Okay, it, it it may be the last one we want, but it is one of the 50 United States, and it is one of the lower 48 contiguous United States. It may be a boil on our ass, but it's connected. It's a part of us, and that boil is festering precisely because Nancy Pelosi and her ilk, they've gotten exactly what they want in California on every policy position.
Yes. Yeah, and those policy positions include redistribution, centralization of power, top-down governmental control, all the things that the left says you,
Micromanagement.
yeah, all the things the left says you shouldn't be afraid of, and yet, conservatives and libertarians are pretty consistently afraid of. So, with regard to China and the coronavirus, yeah, what we will, uh, in true gallows humor fashion, refer to as the Kung flu. Um, it is a flu-like disease. It has a lethality rate of somewhere between 2 and 5%, which is doesn't sound like much, but the regular flu has a lethality rate of less than 1%. This disease also apparently has a long incubation period. You can be infected, you can transmit the virus to other people before you ever begin to show symptoms yourself. And that is pretty terrifying. But what makes this particularly bad, and putting aside the conspiracy theories that how close a weapons grade biolab is to the city where this broke out, and that's something worth exploring, but not right now. Just assuming that this is an accident, a random mutation, whatever, brand new disease popped up on the scene. It's awful that it happened in China because China is a deeply centralized system. This is part of why communism, socialism, central planning, all of that sucks. In China, if there's smoke, you better be damn sure there's fire before you pull the fire alarm. Because if you're wrong, not only are you going to get fired, your whole lab is probably going to get fired. And you and your family may be sent to camps to be re educated. And that's not an exaggeration. Here in the United States, if some doctor at Eggleston sees something, they feel like, oh no, this could be a problem. And they pull the fire alarm, and it ends up not being that big of a deal. We almost give that doctor a pass. We say, okay, well, you made a mistake, but in your professional opinion, you saw an aberration. And so you decided to call attention to it. In China, they have the exact opposite mentality. Nobody wants to call attention to anything.
Right.
Because if you are the gear that breaks down in the machine, you're a problem. You can't expose flaws in the communist system because if you do, well, haha, surprise, surprise, the communist system's not allowed to have flaws. And how dare you point one out?
Well, so it's basically like this. Where you have communism, human life, human individual lives, they don't have value.
Yes, they
So
mean
here's
less.
here's what happens. Um, on a philosophical and there's a philosophical angle and a practical angle here, where what happens with communism, it's communism springs out of the idea of egalitarianism, where everyone is treated identically, where everyone has uh, it, you're looking at the equal outcome, the equality of outcome, not the equality of opportunities. So in the U.S., we strive, in theory, at least on the right, our objective is to have equal opportunity and the availability of it. Right now, when you say equal opportunity, let's take a 10-year-old boy who hasn't made any decisions yet, and he decides that he has fallen in love with the idea of being a marine biologist, and that's the path he's going to choose. Until he made that choice, assuming slightly above average intelligence and the ability to dedicate himself to the study that he wants to dedicate himself to, until he made that choice, he had the equal opportunity to pursue any path. As soon as he makes that choice and begins to pursue it, he has sacrificed the other options available to him. But he's done so in order to pursue that path. Now, you start talking about communist China, where no matter which path you go, now it's not quite this way now, but this is the kind of distilled version of what communism intends to be. No matter which route you go, you go to be a marine biologist, you go to be a doctor, you go to be an engineer, a physician, a physicist. It doesn't matter. Your life has the same money value, the same price tag on it as everybody else's. So, for one, you're not gaining much by a sacrifice when you choose to go down a certain path and pursue a passion. The result of that is that in America, at a philosophical level, we value life more highly. Individual lives, we believe them to have more value. But quite practically, because of specialization and that dedication, the sacrifices that people make to create the self that they become. Uh, what Kierkegaard referred to as the self within the divide between the infinite and the finite. When in the sickness unto death, he talked about how God despairs in his infinitude. I've gone into something about that. I've gone into a bit about that before. Um, it makes people more and more specialized, more unique. Each individual American is more rare a creature than each individual Chinaman because of communism. Not because there's more of them. That is also true. But on a philosophical level, the way that their government understands them. So what happens with the squeaky wheel in America? A squeaky wheel is expensive, so you repair it. Okay? This is the Lamborghini that you worked your ass off to earn your way up to. And if it's going to cost $30,000 to fix the $500,000 car, you're going to spend that 30 grand to fix the $500,000 car. Whereas your communist Chinese, the way that they're understood by their government on a philosophical level and a practical economic level is they're more like your $1,200 beater. If you spent $1,200 on a beater that just gets you to and from the grocery store, and all of a sudden it needs $800 worth of tires, you're going to sell it to the junkyard for $400 and go buy another $1,200 beater. So the valuable part gets repaired. The cheap part gets replaced. It gets discarded and probably destroyed.
Yes. There's also the other side of it. I want a profit motive in my medicine. I 100% want a profit motive in my medicine. I don't care that Jonas Salk decided to give away the polio vaccine for free. Or maybe it was the guy who did smallpox. I don't remember, but one of the very first vaccines the guy gave away for free, blah, blah, blah. Oh, good. He voluntarily did that. That was his choice. And I find it very hard to believe that that was not done with an understanding that it was going to make him famous in his own time and that there would be financial compensation somewhere down the line. And that's kind of the point. We know these doctors' names because they were the ones that identified a medical condition and identified the correct way to treat it. The profit motive doesn't just have the motive of profit in and of itself. There's the underlying theme of the profit motive, of the exceptional motive, as in you have a chance to be exceptional. And again, in communist China, being exceptional is not what you want. It's not. So here in the States, let's say this disease had popped up here. There would have been doctors that pounced on it if for no other reason they wanted to be the first couple of doctors to write papers on it that went into the medical journals, that were the springboard for every discussion ever about this disease from this point forward. The fact that the doctors could have been exceptional, could have been special for correctly identifying this medical condition, would have incentivized them to take the risk associated with identifying this medical condition. So when you couple that with the fact that you have a disease that in a lot of ways is terrifying because you can become infected and you can spread the disease to other people without ever showing symptoms, and you roll that into a system where you are incentivized to shut up and not tell people that you have it. Wow, that sounds like, it's the old Archer joke. You want ants? That's how you get ants. Well, do you want a pandemic? That's how you get a pandemic. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a pandemic. I obviously don't have a medical degree. And really, it could be nothing. This could be one of those things where we all got nervous and then it blows itself out. That could happen. or because of the fact that, a few days ago, there was literally a couple hundred cases confirmed. And then as of this morning, there's thousands of cases confirmed. And mind you, that's confirmed cases. I would take that confirmed cases number and I would quadruple it. And that's probably the actual number of the infected. And when you
Wow.
put all
So
that
so
together,
you're talking 16, 18,000.
oh yeah, I'd be shocked if by the time this isn't all over, we don't have between 15 and 20,000 confirmed cases. And again, that's the low estimate.
And just for a little perspective, you were talking about the 1% fatality rate of the flu earlier.
Less than, but yes.
Yeah, we're talking between 2 and 500 deaths per year, every year from the flu in the United States.
Which routinely
Some
infects
some
millions of
estimates
people.
some estimates are as high as 36,000, which I just don't buy. But it looks like a good figure on that is between 2 to 500. Um, but take but that's the flu. That hits every year, and we just we weather it here. We have some deaths. It's unfortunate, but I mean, living things die. It's part of the world. Um, but remember, I mentioned the Zika virus a minute ago. Remember, the Zika virus was a big scary outbreak, but we clamped it down. Just a few deaths in America. Um, very few reported cases because there was that immediate incentive. You shut it down. Shut it down. Shut down the bug, not the country.
Yeah, and understand that's what's happening in China. They're literally shutting down entire cities, quarantining entire regions of the country away from entire other regions of the country. And oh dear, that's now that could just be them being cautious, and probably is them being cautious. Again, I don't want to give the impression that I think that this is going to be the next Spanish flu and we're about to have a million people worldwide die of this disease. I don't think that. I certainly don't know that that's going to happen, but I do acknowledge that that is at least a possibility. And the entire reason that it's a possibility is they have no profit motive in their medicine. In fact, whereas we would be motivated to speak out and say, this is this weird variation of the flu I've never seen before. They literally have the exact opposite motivation. Oh, there's this weird variant of the flu I've never seen before. I'm just not going to say anything and hopefully somebody else notices, which is terrible. It's evil. Communism and its ilk, collectivism in any fashion, is the destroyer of man. It robs you of your divinity.
The whole
Period.
concept of egalitarianism, the idea that that men are exactly interchangeable, exactly equal.
Well, it
The
depends on how you want to apply egalitarianism. If you want equality before the law, then you've got me on board 100%. But if you want
That's not
equality,
egalitarianism.
it's one of those words that has morphed over time to mean many things to fit to fit many agendas.
No, it's not.
That's what language does, buddy. Don't you know like five of them? I feel like you should know this fact better than I do.
Yes, I do know this. I do know this fact better than you do. And the fact is, the word egalitarianism does not have anything to do with equality under the law. Egalitarianism is the base philosophy of communism. The concept of from each according to his need to each according or from each according to his ability to each according to his need is kind of a broad bastardization of egalitarianism, which is which is an evil philosophy even before it's filtered through Marx. It's
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, egalitarianism is the name of a very specific brand of philosophy. That is not a word whose definition has changed. It is a word which has been misused on occasion, but there's a big difference between a word changing meaning and when we're talking about a proper name. Just because people start referring to acts of brutal violence that solve complex problems with the verb Lowry does not change me, the existing entity, into a verb.
Okay.
So when you're
Fair
talking about a
enough.
proper noun, no, the word hasn't changed. It can't.
So people deliberately apply it incorrectly and correctly to suit their needs.
Yes.
Fair enough.
That's an important idiomatic difference. Um, so,
So there's your English lesson for the day, kids. But in any event, whatever you call it, it robs people of their divinity. It robs you of your individualism specifically. And when the individual is not sacrosanct, the group is. And that is not the world you want to live in. The
and the
world
group
that,
cannot be because the crowd is unaccountable.
yes, never forget the the most extreme minority is the minority of one.
And before we accidentally tumble down the rabbit hole of uh, the disintegrating individualization of intersectional identity politics, I'm because
It's a trap!
I'm gonna call it because it's 10 minutes after 7, and I know somebody got to get to work. It might
Yep,
be me.
yep,
Probably isn't.
but it's me.
Roger
All
that.
right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Y'all be safe out there. It's time to go to work. All right.
All right, man. I'm sorry.